Back again with another special edition of Litter Media Live. We have two friends to my left here, Marie Wilbanks and also Jan Shannon. Thank you, ladies, for stopping by today.
Sure.
They are representatives of Circleville's Sunrise Rotary. We're going to talk about where they've been, what they've been doing, coming up in just a moment. But first, these words from Kingston National Bank.
Wherever you are, you're there for a reason. You shouldn't have to make a trip to the branch just to deposit a check. Skip the trip and use our mobile app to easily and securely deposit checks from your phone. Day or night, wherever you are, or whatever you're doing, download the Kingston National Bank Mobility app today.
Circleville Sunrise Rotary has special projects all over the place. We've discussed about the fact that Rotary's main objective was eradicating polio. It's just about eradicated worldwide. Having said that, you've got some other projects that you're working on, and these took you to another continent.
They did. So this is actually the second time that Jan and I have kind of taken Rotary on the road, and we went to Uganda, so a place that's a little hard for people to find on the map, but it is considered part of Eastern Africa, close to on Lake Victoria.
And as president, you had to be there, right, Jan?
Absolutely. Even before president, I had to be there. It was once Marie started telling the story of what they did over there at this foster program. I just wanted to see it. I wanted to be a part of it. So 2 years ago, when she got a group together, I said I want to go, and then I had to go back and see it again.
Yeah, and we were talking beforehand about when they were younger, did they have aspirations to do worldwide travel? I didn't realize the connection your family had with Peace Corps.
Yeah, so in particular, this project was started by my sister, Laura Corcoran, who went into the Peace Corps in 2008 and was asked to participate in getting an orphanage off the ground in her area. So she ended up staying. She still lives there and provides a lot of the support on the ground for this project. But I have other family members who have been in Peace Corps, and traveling and giving back is a part of kind of my lineage, which I'm very proud of.
Yes. And Jan's just become a world traveler, haven't
Yeah,
you?
that's true.
I have. I've been very fortunate to be able to travel. We recently went to Antarctica, which is rare for people to get to go to.
It sounds so cool.
It was
I want to go.
one of the coolest things
Literally
to see
cool.
the penguins and experience that. So yes, very fortunate trying to get all the continents in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I've only been off the continental U.S. once, and that was to go to Hawaii.
Hey, that's not a bad place to
That's
check
not a
out.
bad
In
place.
fact, when
Sounds
I was
good.
there, I wanted to stay for a little longer than, but at any rate, I digress. We want to talk about why you were there. We want to show people some pictures of what you saw while you were there. So you're talking about this orphanage that has been placed there. And early on, there was nothing there but trees and grass and
this was
wild animals.
Jan's first impression, and it was pretty barren.
Absolutely. So first of all, this is the Mariante Center is what this is called. So as you look at the pictures, you're going to see that there's nothing but a pit latrine is the only thing there, and that is because our Rotary actually built that right before we got there, so that there would be some facilities on site once we came out, because this is very far out in Africa. It's not in Uganda. It's not in a city area. As a matter of fact, they even later had to put a road in to get to this, because to get to where you see these pictures from, we drove across fields.
Wow. No roads. You made your own roads.
Literally, we made a road. So we started with this plot of land, and we, through Rotary, developed it into an entire campus that is functional for really what they. It does have residential dorms, so there are some kids who stay there, but most of the kids are in foster settings, and the grounds are used as a community center. So people are coming in on Saturdays, they call them center days, and the kids receive counseling, and they get a good hot meal, and there are games, and so it really has become this vibrant center of this very rural community.
I know as we're seeing a lot of the expressions on the faces here, these photos, you built some relationships while you're there.
Oh, I love these kids so much. And you know what's really neat? Jan's been twice. I've been however many times at this point, you get to see these kids over and over, and you get to see them healthy and happy and thriving. And eventually they do transition out of this program into adulthood. And so you get to see them be successful. We have somebody who's one of the longest participants in the program who's finishing up her nursing degree in Uganda and going on to be a nurse. And that is so fulfilling for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The little guy that we sponsor 2 years ago was shy, backwards, didn't really even want to talk to us or make eye contact. This year when we drove in, he stepped right out and started waving to me. So it was really neat to see that too.
Fantastic. I know in working with Foothold International, we were talking a moment ago about Brad and Sherry Catron with what they've done in Kenya. Seeing how you mentioned the young lady who became a nurse, that is very key because, first of all, she has a sense of purpose. She also probably has some income. And when those things start to develop, then you start seeing other things improve in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about, we're breaking the cycle of poverty. And unlike the U.S., in Uganda, there really isn't a social safety net. So without these kinds of programs, which are sponsored by Rotary, which are sponsored by individual donors who go in and sponsor a child, without this, there isn't anything. And I think that that's hard for us to imagine because we do have systems here that catch these kids when they start to fall through the cracks. So this is the private contributions of people to this program. It is what makes it possible.
And you've teamed up, you've partnered with other Rotary clubs from the communities here.
Absolutely. The First Capital here in Chillicothe, Lancaster Sherman, Grove City, and Noon Rotary in Circleville all have been contributors and supporters of this program. And I think the thing that makes it most important, too, is because we have boots on the ground over there, we know what's happening. You know, a lot of times when you get involved with programs like this, you think you might know, or you get this letter and you're like, okay, how much of this is real? What are they really doing with this money? Every cent of this we know is accounted for, and that makes it so much more rewarding because you know there's no chance of anything else happening with it. It's really going to work for the kids.
And I say this often. I think it's so intimidating for people to be linked with an international project because there are so many question marks and because the people behind the scenes are all volunteering. We have staff on the ground in Uganda, but behind the scenes on the nonprofit side here, we're just volunteers. We're enthusiasts. We're people who have gone and seen the impact. You know, there is an overhead. The overhead is teeny tiny. And so when you are giving your dollar to a program like this, that full dollar is funding services for that child, which is a big deal in the nonprofit world.
Absolutely.
I know in working with mission groups and things over the years that you can sponsor like an animal of some sort that will provide either milk for the community on a regular basis. You mentioned about the Lancaster Sherman group, and tell us about this bovine.
So this group decided to sponsor a cow. So they purchased a cow or donated the money to purchase a cow. So the group over Mariante went, got the cow, and then they held up a sign and they named the cow Sherman for the Lancaster Sherman group. So, and again, it's that pictures back for that connection, and that makes it so much more real when you see those kids smiling with that cow right there in the pasture, and they're able to use it every day.
Well, and I have one more dairy-related story. Please hold. So, so the group that we just took, one of the women who had never been there before, she's looking around this campus and she goes, "Well, do you guys milk goats?" And people don't milk goats in Uganda. Culturally, that's just not something that happens. And she said, you need a dairy goat. You need to get a dairy goat. So she specifically left money for the program to go get a dairy goat, and they're going out to get it, and they're going to learn how to milk a goat so that they have another source of calcium, right? Another source of nutrients, which, again, is just something that we take for granted here. That is really hard to come by sometimes in Uganda, especially for kids who are at risk. So
Right.
kind of a cool story.
You mentioned that you've been there a couple of times, Jan, and in the first trip, a motorcycle shows up that you were involved with.
Right. So the very first grant we did was for this pit latrine and then for a motorcycle, because the means for getting around over there are basically bodas, as they call them, motorcycles. And that's how the caseworkers actually go out and check on the children at the different locations out in the remote areas. It's much easier to get around with that motorcycle. So we ordered the motorcycle. It actually arrived while we were there, and we were able to present it and take pictures of that. So that was our first grant cycle that we actually did with Mariante.
And just one more little component about the motorcycle that I think is easy to miss or not understand living in where we are. We do take transportation for granted. And probably most people are aware that HIV/AIDS is still a really huge issue in Africa, in Uganda, but it's treatable these days, right? So as long as you have this medication, but this medication isn't just sitting here on a counter for everybody. They have to go to get it. And so there are times where even these foster parents, they just need to be able to be compliant with their medication, but they can't get from point A to point B. So a motorcycle is the difference between health and not being able to manage your HIV/AIDS status. So I think that's a really cool piece of this. And also a lot of the kids that we are caring for are also HIV positive. So, we're looking at this from not only are we meeting needs of the foster family, but we're meeting needs of the children.
And you mentioned point A to point B. That could be from Cincinnati to Cleveland.
Oh, it's huge.
It's
yeah,
huge.
Right.
And remote.
Right, exactly. Plus lions, tigers, and bears chasing you along the way, or other animals as well, pachyderms.
The lions are real. The lions are they're real lions. Yeah.
And we saw them.
Yeah.
So talk about that experience, because it's one thing to go to the Columbus Zoo and see them behind this cage, but when you see them in the open wild, that's got to be a different situation.
Absolutely. I think for me, this last time, we went up to Murchison Falls, and you're driving along, and all of a sudden you look over and go, there's a giraffe. There's just a giraffe. And then you drive a little bit further, and you go, oh, there's like 4 or 5 giraffes. I mean, it's just where we might see a white-tailed deer here in Ohio. It's like, no, there's 5 or 6 giraffes just standing there eating alongside the road. It is just amazing.
And the giraffe doesn't bother me as much as there's a rhinoceros about 15 yards away from us.
We went to go see the rhinoceros.
We did.
There's one place in Uganda that's a sanctuary for rhinos. It's the white rhinos. And so we went, and you stand from about here to, I don't know, maybe 50 feet away from these rhinos. And it really is an interesting conservation practice, but there are people who stay with them all the time and monitor their behavior and make sure that poachers don't come in. There's a reason that Uganda is called the Pearl of Africa. It is actually, absolutely. I know people don't necessarily think about Uganda as a destination, but it is beautiful. There's the flora, the fauna, the people are welcoming and warm. It's an amazing place to go visit.
And actually, the facilities really have improved over the last 2 years
since
we were
years,
there.
Right, yeah. Because it's a growing country.
It
it's
is
a developing country.
And when you say latrine pit, right off the start, I'm thinking this is bigger than an outhouse, but not much house to the out part.
Correct. But again, that's progress for them, and they've actually have Western style restroom or bathrooms in most of the facilities that we went to now, almost all. So, yeah.
How can someone be involved with these projects?
So.
We have a guest.
Yes.
We have an off-camera
Cameron's
guest. Sorry.
here.
He's messing with our...
Might pull that chair back a little bit,
Yeah,
buddy.
Cameron, scoot it back a little bit. You're going to watch everything tumble. We're going to be the people who brought the whole place down.
So the way to get involved is to just contact us at Circleville Sunrise Rotary, and we can let you know what our project is going to be next. There's so many things. Mariante encompasses so much. We've just talked about the children. Marie hit on the Mariante, but there's also a women's center component where they're teaching women life skills, and these are women who have been in either battered situations or they're single moms and things like that. So they need to be taught life skills. So that's another component. And then there's a whole third component called Boende, which again falls under the facility of Mariante. It's in a different district. We've got some work we need to do there. We focused first on getting Mariante done, getting the center completed. It's got a playground for the kids. It's got fence all around for security. So all of that is taken care of. So now looking at some of the other things we can do maybe at Boende and securing it. We've got the land secured there. We've got fence around it, but we just haven't finished everything we need to finish there.
Yeah.
And I also want to plug Rotary as a, hate to say this into a microphone, as a Rotary skeptic originally, I wasn't sure that it was a place that I wanted to spend my time. I have a limited amount of time. Is this where I want to show up? Is this where I want to donate my money? And very much to Rotary's credit, what I found is when I show up and I talk about what I care about, what I'm passionate about, which is Mariante in this case, everybody goes, that's awesome. I want to be a part of this too. And I think that Rotary, that is part of what Rotary represents for those of us involved.
Absolutely.
It's what do you care about locally, internationally, on a state level, and here let's combine our efforts to make something amazing happen.
Well, I will say this too. It's one thing to say I'm a member of Rotary, but it's another thing to say I'm a Rotarian, and this project made me a Rotarian.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
Because, I went to Rotary meetings and I participated in the events locally, but until you really invest yourself in a project, it doesn't have to be this project, but in any project, and you can see the reward that you get in giving those opportunities to others, that's what makes you a Rotarian.
I love that.
Speaking of projects and investing in things, you recently put $10,000 into PICA with the Hope and Soap. I saw that earlier today.
That's correct.
And I know that Nick Pruitt was probably one of the happiest guys in Circleville yesterday.
And clean.
That was Nick is a force, and his passion for people that are just so easy to overlook. It's beautiful. It makes you want to come along, and in that respect, Rotary looks at this project that he cares about so much and is so necessary and goes, here, let's get involved. I am so proud of our Rotary group for being able to contribute very significantly to his Soap and Hope, so his mobile hygiene station. That's awesome.
Dan, you bring up a good point, though. While we do our international project, we are very invested in Pickaway County also and in the community. So there are so many other projects that we do that people, think we focus all on this international project. We have to plug the money that we get. We actually get matching district grant money from District 6690, and we also won $5,000 through District 6690 for what they called a
Shark Tank event. Jan won it. Yeah. She sang we, and it was just a singular. But anyway, Jan got on and got us $5,000.
So that's how we did a lot of this international. But we really, truly do focus a lot on Pickaway County, not only the Soap for Hope project. We're next week we're making a check presentation to our local library for a peace grant for a project that they're working on with the schools. So stay tuned and see that. And a lot of other $500 went to our YMCA for their kids program. So we invest a lot right back into our community too, and that's very rewarding also. So thank you to everybody who supports our Pickaway County Sunrise Rotary as well as the Noon Rotary, because we partner with them a lot to do the things we do.
And Jan's our new president, so you can come out and have a great time with us.
Yes, come 7 o'clock, Presbyterian Church in Circleville, 134 Mound Street. We have a great time.
It's a good group.
The only meeting I've ever been was from my house. We did it remotely back during COVID.
During COVID, yes.
So getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning used to be no big deal to me, working morning radio, but it's a different story now. It certainly is. But you're always looking for new members.
Absolutely. And guests. If you just want to see what it's like, come hang out with us. Visit for a few weeks, see what you think. If you're not a morning person, then try the noon. And again, it doesn't have to be Pickaway County. Come to Chillicothe, Lancaster, any of the Rotaries, and give them a try, because they all do great things around their communities.
And sorry, now we're just singing Rotary's praise, but the motto of Rotary is service above self, and I love that. That's something that I want to be someone who believes in service over self. So if you feel like you're that person too, you come on with us. We're ready to go.
And we do fun stuff also. We're planning a paint game visit.
Doesn't surprise me.
How could we not, with Marie and I get involved, right?
Exactly. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in to share today, and keep us up to date on what other things you're doing so we can help spread the word about that. Jan Shannon, the current president for the next 363 days.
Yeah, very beginning.
For Sunrise Rotary, and Marie Wilbanks, prior president of the Sunrise Rotary. I'm Dan Ramey. Thank you so much for watching this special edition of Litter Media Live.